George Reynolds will have enjoyed that one.
This man wants to take Darlington into the Premiership. Tonight, though, George Reynolds is concentrating on the Cup. With the chairman's millions, Darlington are the bookies' favourites for Division 3. Marco Gabbiadini got them off to a flyer at the Shea. Bolton want to go back to Wembley, if only to wipe out the memory of last season's playoff defeat by Watford. Tonight they're here at Feetham's for the first round of the Worthington Cup. It's Darlington against Bolton Wanderers on the North East match. Good evening and welcome to our first match of the new campaign. It's been used to the sort of attention they've had since the new chairman took over. So what exactly has been happening to the club over the close season? Darlington were £5 million in debt and sinking fast before Wearside millionaire George Reynolds stepped in to bail them out. He shared an executive box at the Stadium of Light, but now he's got to hold ground to call his own. With the chairman's backing, David Hodgson's brought in half a dozen new signings, bringing former Sunderland midfielder Martin Gray back to the North East on a free transfer from Oxford. Tyneside Neil Aspin's gone back to his roots as well, leaving Port Vale to stiffen up the Darlington defence. For a time last season, the Quakers were top of the table, but they fell away so badly they didn't even make the playoffs. They don't plan to make the same mistake this time. Now, one of the reasons Darlington slipped out of promotion contention last season was the state of the Feetham's pitch. Well, drainage problems caused so many postponements last year, they had a huge backlog of fixtures. But it's just one more thing that new chairman George Reynolds has put right. Tonight, the new surface gets put to the test for the very first time. It's Darlington against Bolton Wanderers. First round, first leg of the Worthington Cup. The commentator is Roger Thames.
In the Premiership, it's harder every year for local lads to get their chance. But down in the very real world of Feetham's, they still believe the North East is a hotbed of soccer, even with a millionaire chairman. David Hodgson's team has 7 players born in the region, and only new signing Lee Nogan is without a North East claim. Gateshead-born Neil Aspin and the former Sunderland midfielder Martin Gray are 2 more new arrivals with a First Division pedigree. One change from Saturday's winning start, Gary Himsworth comes in at left-back, with Paul Heckingbottom switching to central defence in place of coach Gary Bennett. But it's Marco Gabbiadini who leads the strong ex-Sunderland influence at Feetham's. 24 goals last season and already off the mark with Saturday's winner. By Heckingbottom. Aspin again, one for Lee Nogan to chase, the bounce is awkward, Nogan is there, Strong did well, oh that is a tremendous finish and a great goal there. Michael Oliver absolutely crashing the ball home. Well, no wonder they're out of their seats, right on half-time, and yes, he'll milk that applause for all that's going. 24 last week, Michael Oliver. He will accept a rather late presence. Strong was challenging for it and was prepared to scrap for it. Nogan, it came to Oliver and absolutely no chance for Keith Brannigan. And typical Darlington work, being prepared to challenge for everything. Strong put under pressure there by Nogan, and in came Oliver from midfield, ticked that one out, as they say. Fine goal. Great. That's half-time, and a very timely piece of work indeed by young Michael Oliver, puts the Quakers in control at the interval. A really cleanly struck goal, and Darlington very committed throughout this first half, never let the First Division side settle, and eventually they've got something to show for it. In a well-taken goal by Michael Oliver at half-time. Darlington 1, Bolton Wanderers 0. Gallagher's got a bad ball in. Johansson. And Franson, oh that's a fine goal. Franson straight onto that loose ball and crashing in the equaliser. And Franson, who's been on the receiving end of close marking, shall we say, by the Darlington midfield. He'll be very satisfied to have made his mark in his own way. Holdsworth got that important knock on. Hanson got the ball back into the middle, no messing at all there, and just in that gap, which Andy Collett was not able to close in time. Good, crisp shot, fired in with plenty of power, and Bolton have got themselves back into that. Hanson the provider, and the finisher, very emphatically, Per Franson, who will give them a lot of stability. Gardner's corner. And, oh, that's very awkward indeed. Holdsworth is right on the line. And that's gone over, and that's a goal. And Holdsworth somehow squeezed that one over the line. And there'll be a few protests about that one, I think, from the keeper, who's saying that he got his hands on the ball, but Holdsworth has literally snatched a lead. Gardner into the middle. Looks as though Andy Collett had it under control, but it came out of his hands, off the thigh, just over that line, was it? And Hemsworth desperately trying to clear it. And that goal not given, though, in the end, much to Collett's absolute relief. Referee chalking it off for Darlington this evening. 5,361, and that impressive newsstand nicely full as well. Whitlow. Well, that's a good ball in there. Nogan's got a chance here. Well, full marks to Brannigan. Pulled out the save, but Nogan shakes his head because he knows that was a really good opening. Atkinson looking up, clipping it through. Good run by Nogan. Watched it, hit it, and it was at a height that just gave Brannigan a quarter of a chance, which he grabbed. Nogan certainly hit the target though. Over comes the cross again, pushed away by Brannigan, fired in by Little, and again Brannigan going down well. Aspen is up there as well. Storm aid of stoppage time. There is the final whistle. And it's ended 1-1, which is a reasonable reflection of a night of high endeavour by both teams, particularly Darlington, who looked to be on their way when Michael Oliver struck a really fierce goal just on half-time. Bolton's quality was always evident. Per Franson, who was substituted, put them level with a fine shot. Dean Holdsworth thought that he'd snatched a winner after squeezing the ball over the line, but referee Bill Burns chalked that one off. A spot of pushing, I think, after a bit of a delay. And so it's level after this first leg. Darlington, though, by no means deflated with their performance, which gets good applause from the 5,000-odd crowd. But at the end of 90 minutes in this two-legged affair, it's Darlington 1, Bolton Wanderers 1. Plenty still to do at the Reebok Stadium.
All square at Feetham's on the night, then Darlington certainly giving as good as they got. We'll be back in a moment talking to the men who matter. Join us after the break. Welcome back to Feetham's and to Darlington manager David Hodgson. David, you said you wanted to measure yourself against one of the best teams outside the Premiership. Certainly weren't outclassed.
I don't think we're outclassed at all. I mean, at times they had some good movement and good passing, but you expect that. I mean, they've got 4 or 5 players in there, certainly the foreign players, who are from a very good standard of football, all international players, and at times you could see it. But when we had possession, after the first 20 minutes got out of the way, we started to pass the ball. We are not, in all honesty, a third division side. We've got 7 players there which have all played in the first division within the last 2 years, and then you've got people like Michael Oliver and Brian Atkinson and Paul Heckenbottom tonight, who started to raise their standards to the standard of the players that we've brought in the football club. So overall, we were more than pleased. I think we might have nicked it, They might have nicked it when the referee disallowed the goal, but all said and done, the performance and the fitness level is starting to improve, and that's the most important thing.
Colin, Darlington, a couple of divisions below you, but they certainly gave you a game.
Yeah, I mean, I expected that. Cup football is totally different to league football. I mean, the minnows or the underdogs, whatever you want to call them, always rise to the occasion. Tonight, they rose to the occasion, and they didn't underestimate me in any way. I mean, it's a lovely little setup here. They have a new chairman. They want to make progress, and I believe they're going to go into a new stadium next season. And the football they played is good. And I think the game itself was good for spectators.
Michael, what a way to open your goal account for the season.
Yeah, it was a fantastic start. We played well Saturday. We knew we had to do well tonight. And to be fair, I think it's the best goal of my career so far.
The manager, David Hodgson, says you did have a good scoring record when you first came to the club. He's expecting a few more.
Well, hopefully I can get a few more this season. I got 11 in my first season. And I'm sure the fans have been a bit miffed by, over the last 2 seasons, I haven't got as many. But I can assure them this season I'm going to try my hardest to get a few more.
Overall, as I say, we're not really a third division side. I hope to God we're not next year, but we've got enough quality in there to cause any team an upset. And certainly we could go down to Bolton. I don't know what Colin's fitness level is at the moment. If he's happy that they're 100%. I think we're probably about 85, 90, so we've got a bit of improvement to do. Got a little bit more work to do on the passing, and if we can do that, then we should go down there maybe a little bit better off. All depending on how the morale is and the results prior to that game.
And the chairman went round speaking to the fans before and after the game. There's a great buzz about the place, isn't there?
It's. I think that you might have heard the theme tune as it went out about a happy club again and happy place and all that. It is. It's buzzing. And all credit to a man who's a multi-millionaire who's prepared to go out there and parade himself to get people psyched up. That takes some kind of character, but I think it also shows that he's. I think he's in love with the place at the minute.
George, you're pretty new to this football chairman lark, but I can tell you're enjoying it.
Oh, I love it. The thing is, you know, if the fans are happy, I'm happy. If the fans are depressed, I'm depressed. But the good fans aren't, they really. They really give it heart, and they deserve all this, you know, because I've had years of misery and jokes cracked about them and one thing or another. So I'm really pleased. But I'm getting excited myself over it. That's the only problem. Give me sleepless nights.
Now, I know you've got big plans for Darlington. Do you really think you can take them all the way into the Premiership eventually?
Well, you've seen it yourself. You watch them. They've just come down from Premier Division, haven't they? And we third division. Would you say, realistically being honest, that we played bad, or as good, or held our own? So if we can do that in third division against a team that's been relegated, and they're a good team, Bolton, let's not knock them, you know, I know they've been relegated, but they're not a bad team. But if we can do that, there's no reason why we shouldn't climb out the third division into the second, into the first. And by that time, we'll probably have stronger players, we'll have the new stadium, we'll have a lot going for us. And I don't see no reason at all why we can't do it.
George, we'll watch your progress with interest. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Lots of more action going on elsewhere tonight in the Premiership. Sunderland and Middlesbrough off the mark in the Premiership. And Darlington are starting to make their mark under new chairman George Reynolds, who went round the pitch handing out these T-shirts to the fans before the start of the game. 1-1 with Bolton in the first leg of the Worthington Cup. But in the second leg, with this man at the helm, anything's possible. From Feetham's, a very good night.
If I said to you that third division Darlington were about to become a major force in the English game, you'd probably think I was talking fantasy football. But one man who's convinced he can turn fantasy into reality is their chairman George Reynolds, and the former safe blower who thinks he's cracked it has had a visit from Soothale.
Darlington doesn't look like a club on the verge of a transformation, but the arrival of a chairman with big ambitions and even bigger pockets has captivated this corner of the northeast. There's a 6-year plan to get into the Premiership, and it's all down to George Reynolds, a local boy made good, a multi-millionaire who's cleared the club debt and is now planning for a new stadium. He's aiming big at this club.
You know, for the reserves and that. what you've got to look for in any football club, even with the players, 3 things you've got to look for. Only 3 things. If you get them 3 things right, you bang on. 1 is the right attitude. 2 is attitude. And 3 is attitude. Attitude, attitude, attitude. If you get them 3 things right, you've got it right. If they've got the attitude, you can do anything. I once listened to a fellow, Marks and Spencer, and he said, what do you look for in people? He says, attitude. If they've got the right attitude, you can get them to do it. If they've got the wrong attitude, you get them to do nothing. You see, I don't go into business to make money, you know. Money's secondary to me. I can make money. I always make money. I'm never short of making money. It's easy. All you've got to do to make money is do it right and you make money. Everything I've been into, I've made money because I do it right. You see, what satisfaction do I get? 1, if I can go from 3rd division into 2nd, into 1st, into Premier, with a new stadium and the club in the black, and I've spent nothing, it's going to make the rest look a little bit silly, isn't it?
It would be easy to dismiss him as just another colourful character in the chairman's seat, but this man has really seen life from both sides of the fence.
You have pleaded guilty to the charges brought by this court, and it is now my duty to pass sentence. You are an habitual criminal who accepts arrest as an occupational hazard, and presumably accepts imprisonment in the same casual manner.
Not many chairmen have spent time at Her Majesty's pleasure, but George Reynolds has, 4 years to be exact, in the 1960s for safe-breaking.
I'm not proud of what I've done, but I'm not ashamed of what I've done, because realistically, in the world I lived, you either stole or starved, you know? And people turn around and say, well, yeah, but you either stole or starved, and if you didn't steal, you starved. And if you get on it's like an hamster getting on a treadmill, you know, you go from one institution to another, you go round and round and round, you don't know where to get off at. But I was talking to a woman a few weeks ago, I'm not going to give any names, about 8 or 9 sat around the table. She says, oh, she says, you know, I couldn't steal. I said, could you not? She says, oh, no, it doesn't matter how hard up I was and how hungry I was, I couldn't steal. I said, well, why don't we, while we're all here, put it to the test? I'll put a banquet up in a room, we'll lock you in for 4 days, and we'll put a closed circuit in, and all the stuff doesn't belong to you, and let's see how much you eat it before you get out, as you'll eat the table by the time you get out. You see, I ended up in Kirkham prison, and I must be the only nutcase, I would say, in the whole country. Realistically, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Kirkham was good for me, you know, very good for me. You see, you've got to understand, I couldn't read and write. I was 21 years of age, you know. And when I learned to read and write, I became very, very dangerous. And I was very fortunate. I was in Kirkham, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was in there, was a lot of bank managers, solicitors, accountants, and lawyers, bent lawyers. The place was full of them, you know. And I learned quite a lot from them. I exploited them to the best of my ability, and I went to the library, and I learned to read and write, and it was very, very good for me. I had a wonderful time. In fact, most of the prison warders used to look at me and say, I'm sure you're enjoying this. I said, well, it's better than where I've come from, but...
Reynolds repented and then reinvented himself, building up a £270 million fortune from chipboard, which has made him the driving force behind this new Darlington. Manager David Hodgson has seen and done it all at the highest level, but even the former Middlesbrough striker is impressed by his new boss.
At the end of the day, it's the chairman who set these standards, and if you look at him in his walk of life, when he walked into his business 10 years ago, 18 years ago, there was 7 or 8 companies were massive, massive companies. So if you put them on par with Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, and he wiped all them out, you're a brave man to bet against him not getting us in the Premier Division. He can't get us there. We've got to get there with the football. But if his ambition and desires there and it rubs off on everybody else around, which it is in my case, then I wouldn't bet against it. Be a brave man.
Kitson. Oh, it's Gabbiadini. He's got away from Palmer. Oh, what a good finish.
Ironically, a former Sunderland player is also helping fan the flames of ambition at Feetham's. Marco Gabbiadini has returned to his roots via Crystal Palace and Derby.
I was lucky enough to be one of the players who was brought into Derby when Lionel Pickering first took over, which was quite an exciting time, and I think I joined in the January, and I think I was first or second of about 10 players who came in. Unfortunately, we didn't sort of get immediate success, although we finished, I think, a point off promotion by the end of that season. you've got to be patient, because if you do start splashing the money about, what happens is I think teams start putting the prices up for the players, and if they know you've got a bit of money. But he's obviously our chairman's he's a very successful man in his own right in his whatever business he's touched, so he knows more about that than we do.
The chairman likes to buy his staff flash cars, so his factory looks like a Premiership car park. Maybe one day Darlington will have one of their own. It won't be for the want of trying.
Realistically, you can only give your best, can't you? And if you give him your best and you've proved yourself, what more can you do? If you went out to the principal, I've given you my best, nobody can knock you for that, can they?
Well, he's quite a character. Had everyone on the studio floor chuckling there, Garth. But you're a man with plenty of attitude. Is that all it needs?
Well, you can't fault his, can you? George Reynolds. And I wouldn't dismiss him either as a colourful character. I think you've got people like that in football, committed to football. I think it's good for the game. You look at Darlington, you think, well, the reality is if you've got someone like Gabbiadini, Hodgson, who's done it and knows what it's all about, and a chairman who's prepared to put his money where his mouth is, I think that would be my top or my tip to for Darlington to win that table.
OK, Garth. Well, thanks for coming in today. I know you're
Premiership this weekend. What about the Nationwide League? Well, York City and Hartlepool are both